Hi guys, this is attorney Catherine Henry. I'm coming live to you to give you an update on the Michigan GOP state convention. Guess what? It's about politics as usual, which leads to government as usual. So this shouldn't really surprise you any, but I wanted to give you the update nonetheless. And I really don't know where the breakdown is. If it involves people at the county level or just the state level, but wanted to give you guys an update nonetheless. So, and I'm sorry, but I try to do a lot of my lives from the nice backdrop of my office and whatnot, much more professional, I realize, than walking around in the wind and in the sun. But guess what? I'm inside all the time, so this update is coming to you live from outside so I can get a little bit of sunshine while I'm doing this. In any event, I don't remember what the date of the county convention was, but I participated by Zoom because it was originally only going to be by Zoom, and then somewhat last minute it was kind of changed so that it was half by Zoom, half by being in person. So I did participate by Zoom. Again, that's Ottawa County GOP County Convention, and I was going to be the first alternate to the state convention, and I could have challenged someone because there were lots of people that didn't even show up that ended up being listed as delegates, but I didn't. I was fine being first alternate. And then by the time the meeting ended, though, I ended up being bumped up to that last spot of the delegate list. So again, I was towards the end of the meeting. Well, that and my phone was dying, so I didn't catch the tail end of the meeting, but I was able to hop on to, I think it was my husband's phone, and I was texting a few other delegates to see if there was anything else that I needed to do, or if they, if the list was finalized, if they needed anything else from me. And at one point I did ask in the meeting if leadership needed anything else from me because my phone was going to die. They were having technical issues at the very beginning, so if it's freezing up, I can't help it. I'm sorry. It's the technology I got. So I'm going to do my best, but it is what it is. The county convention in Ottawa County, because it was half Zoom and half in person, it started quite late. I'm trying to remember exactly when we really got rolling. I want to say it was about 7:30. Because we got on there, they had to sign off, and then they had to have leadership sign back in from a different device or something like that, so that she had different controls, something of that nature. And so by the time we really got rolling again, it was quite a bit after when we were supposed to start. So at any rate, we ended up, it was well into an hour and a half or something like that, and I think an hour and a half or an hour and 45 minutes, something like that, is when my phone died. So I guess I'd never done a call not being able to be plugged in on Zoom for an hour and 45 minutes. So at any rate, the voting had happened though prior to that, and like I said, I was when it was done at the stage of Ottawa County has quadrants, I was listed as the first alternate for the quadrant that I'm in, which I think is the southwest. And by the time the meeting closed, though, somebody had come off the delegate list, and I had been moved up as the last delegate. So we were told we would be receiving something would be mailed to us or whatnot, and I never received anything, never received email or anything like that. And I mean, I didn't even get anything in writing as to what the date was. I had a tentative date, but I wasn't sure what the time was or anything like that. So earlier this morning, I started trying to text and call people that I knew were involved with the Michigan GOP, saying, you know what, this is the last weekend of August. Did you guys get anything? Is this Zoom meeting happening? I did not realize state convention was not a Zoom meeting. It was some sort of, I don't know what it is. But at any rate, I was never sent anything. And I was never sent, the delegate roster to see whether I was on there or not. I was never sent a login. I was never sent information about it. I did receive some stuff afterwards from county convention that our county chair had been talking about how things were going better, or not better, but like he appreciated how things went at county convention despite the technological difficulties, and how we had people that were willingly giving up a delegate spot to allow some alternates to go who really wanted to go, or perhaps have not had the chance to go to state convention, that kind of thing. And so I have received a few updates that way, but I didn't get any information on the exact how this is going to work for state convention. So at any event, I called today as many people as I could think of, texted people, just trying to think, like, who do I know is still involved with the party, who typically serves in some sort of capacity and should be a delegate to state convention. Of course, I know a lot of precinct delegates, but that doesn't help with anything if they are not a state delegate or state alternate. So in any event, it probably is too windy, but I'm not going inside. I'm inside every single day fighting for you guys. So sorry, it is what it is. Yes, there's going to be wind noise. Absolutely. I understand that. I will try to speak louder to see if I can talk over the loud wind that you guys will hear. I ended up hearing back from a couple of people, and I did have the right number for the MI GOP, and I had called Ottawa County GOP, and I left messages with both prior. But I was thinking maybe there's some special number that I hadn't been able to get a hold of, specifically for convention, or something where it would be an indicator that they were really there today. Because the numbers that I was given for both, or that I had for both, originally, it was just a voice message that I had to leave. There was no indication that somebody was going to be there to answer the phones or whatnot today. So I eventually got through, though. I have called several times, and I got a hold of somebody who, I think there ended up being two individuals on the phone with me. Quite frankly, they never identified themselves. Not with a position, not with a first name, nothing. And kept calling me Mary. Pretty sure Catherine and Mary don't sound alike at all. But I'm just going to say they were very obnoxious. And the second person, I think it was a second person, was actually more kind at the beginning, and I was trying to explain the situation and how I think something may have transpired, which is, the fact that I was initially a alternate to the state convention, first alternate, and then ended up getting bumped up to delegate by the end, and so perhaps something happened in transferring me from one list to the other. And they seemed to indicate that all I could really do was talk to the county chair. I asked for a phone number. They refused to give me his phone number. I said I've called the office, but clearly no one's going to be there today to answer me. They gave me an email, so I emailed him, but by the time they finally gave me his email, mind you, it was like 16 minutes before the deadline, the extended deadline, happened. So I was told that they had extended the voting deadline till 3 p.m. today. And so by the time they finally gave me an email for him, it was 2:44, I believe. And I said, you guys got to be kidding me. Just give me his phone number. Well, I don't feel comfortable giving you his phone number. If he doesn't want to be contacted by a state delegate, then perhaps he shouldn't be chair for the entire county. I'm pretty sure he'd be okay with me calling him if that's who I'm supposed to call. So in the meantime, I get an email out to him, and then I'm still on the phone with them, and they say, well, they look into things. Now, mind you, the first guy that I spoke with was quite rude and obnoxious, and I asked him if Ottawa County turned in the total amount of delegates they would be allotted. I didn't need to know the whole number or the names or anything. Whatever the total dollar amount, the total amount would be from each of the 4 quadrants. I didn't remember off the top of my head. I want to say it's 28 delegates from each of the 4 quadrants. So I just wasn't 100% certain, and I just asked, do we in fact have the 28 or whatever it is max per, for the whole county, whatever the total is. Can you just tell me that? And so he goes on some trip about how he has the full list of 2,000 delegates. And I'm like, no, I asked specifically for Ottawa County. All I want to know is if Ottawa County turned in the normal amount, the max amount of delegates. The dude would not give me the answer. Clearly thinks that, GOP doesn't need to deal with actual truth and answering people. So the second guy, though, when I explained to him what happened, he put me on hold for a really long time. And when he eventually came back on, he said that does look like what happened, because Ottawa County is actually short 1 delegate. Well, gee. So I was number 1 alternate. By the time the meeting ended, I had been moved from number 1 alternate up to the last delegate. Now I'm removed from the alternate list, and somehow when Ottawa County GOP's list makes it to MIGOP, they have a list with all but 1 delegate listed. Sounds like it's just a typo. But then they started arguing with me. The nice one turned evil and started arguing with me about how I should have challenged the list, and I should have done that a week ago or something like that. And I said, and how am I supposed to do that when you guys didn't even send me the stinking list? I got zero communication about state convention. I didn't get a list. I didn't get an email from MIGOP saying there was going to be a list published somewhere and I could go and look for it. I got nothing. Zero communication from MIGOP or even Ottawa County GOP about that. I have gotten the Ottawa GOP communications about essentially housekeeping matters that were follow-up from state or county convention, but nothing mentioning that there was a roster that I needed to go and look to see if my name was correct or anything like that. Otherwise, I absolutely would have called and spoken with somebody way back when. But typically, I am the I'm not seen as someone who's very patient with these kinds of things. So I was trying my hardest to be patient and just simply wait for whatever would come for me. And nothing came. So again, this is the first time that since I've been going to state convention, that state convention was not an actual state convention. And my understanding was that it was supposed to be a Zoom meeting. Now maybe I read into that incorrectly, or maybe it was supposed to be Zoom and they changed it to whatever it was. But by the end of talking with some people today, it looks like it's not. It was not a Zoom meeting. It was some sort of thing where you had a unique code to you and you text messaged in your votes, or it led you to some sort of special login on a website. I don't know. I don't have that. In the end, I clearly had asked multiple times if there's who do I need to speak with? Just tell me who. Well, you got to talk to David Kroll. He's the Ottawa County GOP. Okay, so give me his number. No, you can't have his number. Okay, swell. Well, you're telling me I have to get the voting done, by 3 o'clock today, but you won't give me ways to contact somebody by 3 o'clock today. Well, he can't really do anything about it anyway. Okay, why is that? Who do I need to go to? Just tell me. Who do I need to go to at state convention? Who is there that I can speak with from MIGOP about this? Because now Ottawa County is not properly represented. We are one short of a delegate, and you guys are saying it's totally okay because there was some typo somewhere and a name got left off somehow, that it's my fault that I didn't know that I wasn't on a list that I wasn't sent in the first place to review. Okay. They would not give me anyone. Now, mind you, they never told me what their position was. They never told me what their names were. They never told me anything other than I'm not on the list, and Ottawa County GOP is in fact short one delegate, when I clearly had told them before I even knew that I was supposed to be the last delegate listed because I was moved up from the position of first alternate. So it's not like they can't verify who I am. You know darn well that MIGOP knows who I am. Certainly the legislature knows who I am. So I guarantee you our governor's office knows who I am. And we all know the judicial branch knows who I am. So it's not like, you know, it's a secret who I am. But they called me Mary multiple times because clearly that sounds so much like Catherine, even when I was inside without the wind. In any event, I got to the point of saying, you know what, the guy was arguing with me about it was my responsibility to challenge. It was my responsibility to call in right away. And at one point he said I should have called in the very next day after county convention. And I said, no, why would I do that? That doesn't even make sense. So I'm going to be the impatient person calling in the very next day to do what? Demand to see the list right away? I've never had a list sent to me the very next day after county convention. Stuff has always just come later. And it's always come not very in good timing, but it's always come. So, you know, and the county did a very good job about, you know, getting me the information about participating in county convention. So I have no reason to believe that it's the county GOP that did something wrong in the first place. You know, our county convention gave out kind of confusing information because it seemed like it went back and forth about whether it was in person or whether it was going to be online or Zoom or whatever. But they inundated us with communication to make sure that we were aware and we could participate, and we did. So the thing is, by the time the end of this phone call happened with this guy, and he's arguing with me, blaming me for all that has transpired, the fact that my name's on a list, he was making my fault. I said, you know what, if you won't even give me to a single supervisor, nobody at all, I can't speak with anybody about this whatsoever, and you literally tell me that there's nothing anyone can do about it, what you're telling me is that the Republican Party is, in fact, exactly the same way as government is. It's just always somebody else's problem. There's never any accountability or responsibility at all whatsoever. So, needless to say, he was not very kind and not very helpful, and I didn't get to vote today. So, I just want to be clear. I don't have David Kroll's personal phone number, so I'm not blaming him. I'm not saying he was personally avoiding my phone calls. Because if I had his phone number, I feel like I could have communicated with him directly. Back when my Facebook Messenger worked, I think that's how he and I'm pretty sure, used to communicate on there frequently. Or at least if I ever had something, he would get, you know, hold of me, or if he had something, I would get back a hold of him. You know, we had good communication on there since I've moved to Ottawa County, but my Facebook Messenger hasn't functioned in, what, 3 or 4 months. So I can't even go in there and see what messages he and I would have had before, if he would have ever given me a cell phone or you know, any kind of other way to communicate with him, because back then Facebook Messenger was working just fine, so I didn't think I needed a backup for that. So at any rate, it is very disturbing that I mean, we all know this. Let's be honest. We know this is how politics works. Sometimes we like to think that it's not that way, or, oh no, my state rep is a really good guy, or my senator is super nice and answers my questions at coffee, you know, with the candidates kind of thing, or whatever. But this is just the same old crap. They don't want people really involved. I mean, even at the county levels, they don't want people involved. Don't sit around and expect that people are going to want you to participate in government, at local government, at state government, certainly not in federal government. You have no right to participate in government because you are not the elite. Even if you're elected, you're sometimes treated like you're not the elite. And the thing is, none of us should be treated like elite. This isn't an elitist government. This is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And we need to start holding accountable every single one of these people. I don't care if it's a little peon volunteer that's answering a phone call on a Saturday afternoon, giving me attitude about how even though I was properly elected as a state delegate, I don't get to participate, and there's literally no one that can help me with that. That leaves Ottawa County shy representation, even if it's just one. But if it's me and just one, how many other counties, how many other state delegates got left off? How many other people had their participation cut shy inappropriately? I mean, so the thing is, most people aren't willing to bulk the system, to fight for what they're entitled to have or entitled to participate in. And I feel bad for people, but we need to start holding them accountable. This is crap. So I would love it if everybody who may have been an alternate or a delegate was never sent the information about the state convention today. If you did something about it, make it known. Don't comment on here because I often don't get to see all the comments. I certainly can't see them on my phone, and afterwards, well, Facebook doesn't play nice, right? But you can email us. You could send us a message through our Facebook Messenger with the Restore Freedom with Catherine Henry page. But I don't want you to just tell us. I want you to tell the world. Tell the world if MIGOP somehow left you off and you were not allowed to properly participate in this. Because if that's how we're going to do this, this shows you why we can't have all this mail-in voting crap, right? If they can inadvertently leave off certain people, if they can accidentally have these technological difficulties with certain delegates, you know, more and more people are going to get disenfranchised and walk away and not participate, and it's going to be left to only those people who are in the in club in the first place. So we need to stop it. We need to stop it now, because this isn't just MIGOP state convention and that's it, and it's just about the politics side of things. No, this is about our government. Who do you think they were picking? They're picking the candidates that will be going on the ballot for November. Statewide candidates that need to go on the ballot for November. That's a huge thing. I mean, who we have in various positions, whether it's the not Department of Education, the State Board of Education, or the Michigan Supreme Court. I mean, who do you want deciding these cases? If we have no say, if I, as an individual who was duly, properly elected as a precinct delegate, who then was properly elected at county convention to be a state delegate, if I have my voice cut out of the process and people like me are not able to participate and vote on who we want to represent us in the Republican Party as a Supreme Court candidate for Supreme Court Justice, where does that leave us? Who do you think will be deciding the cases when the legislature sues the governor? Or when a group of doctors sues the governor? And then in the meantime, by the way, I hope you saw my post yesterday about how at least one of the doctors is being harassed and abused by the system because the governor and the attorney general didn't like that he sued them. I mean, read his story. It's a long post, but it shows exactly how she is abusing her power as governor and how the attorney general is abusing her power as attorney general. I mean, this is ridiculous. We need to stop this, but who's going to stop this? Because quite frankly, the lawsuit from the legislature suing the governor, that's a facade. They're not fighting for the people. They're fighting about who gets to control the people. Is it the legislature or is it the governor? Bzz. Neither one of you have the right to control the people. Read the Constitution. Pick which one if you don't want to follow both. Read the state constitution or the U.S. Constitution, and you will be reminded over and over again how this is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Article 1, Section 1 of our state constitution says that all political power is inherent in the people. Article 1, Section 23 says that the rights enumerated in our state constitution do not stop there. Just because we have some enumerated does not mean that those are the only rights we have. In fact, if you look at our state constitution preamble, it says God gave us our rights. Almighty God gave us our blessings of freedom, and we make our state constitution in order to secure those blessings of freedom undiminished for ourselves and our posterity. Period. So we can't just, Lori, we can't sit back and wait for others to fix this for us. It is our job. If we are not fighting to get into county convention, if we are not fighting to get into state convention, if we are not fighting to make sure that once we got into state convention that we are allowed to actually participate in state convention as a delegate so we can have our voice heard on who should be Supreme Court Justice, who should be the Republican Party candidate for Supreme Court Justice. I'm sorry, that's huge. And I don't know how many people know as much as I do at this point about which of our Supreme Court justices are saying which things. How many people out there are reading the Supreme Court opinions? We have a June 4th opinion that came out when the legislature's lawsuit was not allowed to jump over the Court of Appeals process. That was the very same order that came out from the Supreme Court that also accepted my brief as an amicus brief. That part was great. I like having my brief accepted. Totally devastated a few sentences later when the court said that the Court of Appeals had to hear the matter first. But then that's like a 4 or 5 sentence order. What about the rest of the the opinions that went along with that? Concurring opinions and dissenting opinions. Who is reading them? We all need to be reading them. We all need to be reading those. What about the very next day on June 5th? I want to say that one was Carl the Barber's case. And, there, again, it was 5 sentences of an order, I think. But then the opinions were very clear. The dissenting opinions and the concurring opinions and, the opinion of the court. How you need to read those. I'm glad I'm seeing that some of you are reading. I'm excited. I'm excited that you guys are reading those. But so now you know why it's important, because there are some justices that are thinking about the 10 million people and their constitutionally protected liberties that God gave us. And it doesn't matter if this is temporary or not. It doesn't matter if a disease is deadly or if it's not. It doesn't matter what the medical arguments are on it at all. It doesn't, because the Constitution doesn't say, hey, when there's something super dangerous, the government gets to trample all over our rights just to protect us. It's totally okay. We just hit pause on all of the rights guaranteed to the people. Totally fine. And oh, by the way, all of those constitutional restraints placed upon the government, those get paused as well. No, they don't. We have constitutionally guaranteed freedoms that were given to us by God in both our U.S. and Michigan constitutions that don't get put on pause at any point in time, no matter what. And the constitutionally guaranteed restraints placed upon the state and federal governments that are in both our state and federal constitutions are in place no matter what, unless the Constitution says there is some sort of mechanism for stepping outside of those limitations, then there is not. So there's nothing in our state constitution that allows our governor to issue executive orders outside of Article 5, Section 2, which does not allow her to control the people at all. It simply allows her to reorganize the executive branch. So when people keep asking over and over again, well, gosh, Catherine, if there's all these laws, if there's all these constitutional provisions that the governor is violating and the attorney general is violating, and you know, the Court of Claims judge is violating, you know, what do we do about it? How is it possible that all these government officials are violating the terms of our Constitution? How is it possible? Because we allow party politics as usual. We allow crap like this. Again, I don't know if it was an inadvertent typo of my county chair when he was transferring me from one list to another, or if it was you know, something that he sent the whole list, but it was on some sort of Excel spreadsheet, and when there was a copy and paste into a master list of all 2,000, I somehow got cut off of it. I don't know. But clearly, if we have one shy, and that one shy is calling in, we should be able to participate. And clearly, if we're in the midst of a county, or excuse me, this one was a state convention, to pick which people would be our Republican nominees for statewide offices like state Supreme Court Justice and state Board of Education and all of those other things, why is it that it would be okay for them to shut out anyone? Why shut out anyone? The people have to have a say. And quite frankly, doing it this way is not a Republican form of government. When we go in and we have to vote for delegates to represent us, who then have to vote on which delegates then will represent us at the next phase, and then those state delegates then get to vote on which candidates will then make it onto the ballot, so then we can, as the people, can then vote on them. That is never what was intended by Article 4, Section 4 of our U.S. Constitution. Article 4, Section 4 of our U.S. Constitution guarantees to us a Republican form of government where the people retain absolute control and authority, and we simply represent or elect representatives to carry out functions of government for us on our behalf. But when we elect people to then go ahead and nominate people who then go ahead and get put on the ballot so then we can elect them again, that's not a direct system of electing who represents us at all. So we need to make sure this kind of crap doesn't happen again. So please, if you were locked out of being able to participate in your county convention earlier this month, please make that known. Please be clear and concise and tell people exactly what happened. And if you were somehow locked out of being allowed to participate as a state delegate or state alternate, please let that be known as well. Certainly if it arose to something such as a situation as myself where you were elected to that position and somehow were still not allowed to participate, make that known as well. And you can bet your bottom dollar that if we had had an in-person state convention, well, first of all, it never would have gotten this far because I would have known ahead of time that I didn't get the information for physical, credentials and the map and what rooms we were going to be in and all that stuff, because that stuff always comes. And if you don't get that stuff ahead of time, then that you can contact people. But this whole brand new thing, it's never been done this way. But yet I was supposed to know who to call and when to call without a phone number, and to know that my name somehow wasn't on some list somewhere that some other people apparently voted on after the original people at county convention voted on it. So that's insane. So make sure, let's see, why were they not checking these lists to make sure the right amount of delegates were on the list? I think that is a wonderful question, which is why, with my intuition, I had a feeling our numbers were off. But the first guy I spoke with clearly didn't want to tell me the truth and just kept telling me he's got the full 2,000 delegate list. Wouldn't answer my direct question ever. Never once answered me if Ottawa County had the full amount of delegates they were allowed. So I'm not sure where the ball was dropped there. I'm not sure if it's something that, our county chair turned in all whatever X amount we were supposed to have, and so he knows, yep, I checked, my list had whatever, 100 people. And so then it became something from the state. But yeah, at the very least, those people at the state side should have seen, Ottawa County is allotted X amount and they've only turned in this amount. They're at least one shy. We should contact the chair. We should contact someone and see what that other person, where that other person is, to see why our list is one shy. Definitely they should have done that. And it wasn't something that should be on me, because I didn't know there was some other approval list to take place in the first place. But party politics is disgusting. You have to start participating. You have to start getting involved. And if you don't want to consider yourself a Republican or a Democrat and you still want to get something done, check out the U.S. Taxpayers Party, which is the same thing as the Constitution Party. Check them out. I know Ottawa County has a chair, or a branch, I guess. I can't think of what it would be called. There's all kinds of other parties as well. I was actually part of an initiative a few years back to start a brand new party, the Federalist Party. And I ended up stepping out of that to get into some other work, and then I have no idea really what happened of that. But it's something that can be done. I mean, we could have a whole nother party that has ballot access and has things run, essentially the same way. But to a certain degree, do you really want things run the same way? Or should we just have, you don't have to go through your party to have ballot access. You don't have to go through your party for people to get their name onto the ballot, or to be able to vote for somebody to get onto a ballot. I mean, if we're going to have parties and we're going to have primaries, okay, great, but it shouldn't be, all these steps that people take. So please get involved. Please let these situations known. And certainly, if you haven't read my post from yesterday, please read about how that doctor is being manhandled by the state government right now, because he sued the Michigan Attorney General, the Michigan Governor, and the Michigan Director of the Department of Health and Human Services. And also, while you're at it, you can certainly sign the 1945 repeal petition, but that's only going to stop one teeny tiny piece of the whole thing. Please consider getting support for the Restore Freedom Initiative. That is the constitutional amendment that ends this garbage right here. All of this garbage. Because anyone, among many other things, anyone who is in public office who is intentionally violating the Constitution, either they're intentionally violating your constitutionally protected rights, or they are intentionally violating the constitutional restrictions placed upon a particular office or branch of government, well, they are held criminally and civilly responsible, period. There's no immunity if you're intentionally violating the Constitution, nor should there ever be immunity if you are intentionally violating the Constitution. So please consider getting involved with that. Please consider signing that petition. And get the signatures and help us. We need 425,059 good signatures. We have 180 days by state law to turn those in. I was the first signature on there on May 30th. We have all the way through to Thanksgiving Day to turn those in. Obviously, state offices are not open on Thanksgiving Day. But we have until November to turn those in. So please help us to get the rest of these signatures that we need. If you happen to be anywhere in the greater Detroit area especially, we need, proportionate to how many registered voters are in each county, we need 76,000 signatures from Wayne County. 76,000. Even if you don't live in Wayne County, if you know of any kind of events, especially with Labor Day weekend coming up, if you can help us go to any of these counties of the 83 that we have, but especially ones like Wayne County or others where there are a ton of other people out and about for different events, help us get signatures. Go to a park, go to a boat show or a car show or anything like that. Get outside, talk to people. Anybody who loves their freedom should want to sign the constitutional amendment petition. The only thing I have ever heard from these Republicans in office or not, these other supposed constitutional attorneys as to why this amendment is a bad deal is, number one, because, well, you don't have enough money. You don't have the millions of dollars it takes to get this done. We don't need $1 million. We just need people standing up and doing what's right. And we don't need them. We can do it. We, the people, can show them how it's done. So let's show them. And the only other thing they've said is that a lot of the stuff that's in there shouldn't belong in a constitution. No, it belongs in statute. Who is to say something belongs in a statute versus a constitution? I'll tell you what, if I believe that stuff should not be moved around or changed or modified or be able to have a bunch of loopholes, I don't know about you, but I want it in the state constitution. I don't want it in a statute that just needs a simple majority of a whole bunch of people that have been bought off. No thank you. So the things that were supposedly whatever, that they needed to be put in state law instead of state constitution, according to some of my critics, were the Open Meetings Act provisions and the Freedom of Information Act provisions. I'm sorry, but if we do not have open meetings across all kinds of governmental agencies, if we do not have open meetings and we do not have true freedom of information to access documents, to get meeting minutes, to be able to look up court cases and pleadings that are filed in courts and all those other things, if we do not have true open access to the meetings and to the documents, then how do we have any kind of government system of the people, by the people, and for the people? That should be in the Constitution. Obviously, when the original U.S. Constitution was written, let alone even the state constitution, that the 1963 version, we never could have imagined back at those times that we would have things like the internet, where we would have websites where you could post information for everybody across the entire world to see information. But we do. And we can make it free for people who already pay thousands and thousands of tax dollars for a variety of other things. And guess what? You wouldn't need a ton of man hours to sort through all kinds of government documents if they're available online, because we as people should not have to request most of the things that people need to see in the first place. Government meeting minutes should be on the government entity's website, period. Court case documentation. When I left the state of Minnesota 12-ish years ago, back before then, when I was still a practicing attorney there, I could look up online on a statewide system a particular individual and see a list of whatever court cases they had in various counties. And then I can look to see whatever pleadings were there. If Minnesota can do that 10, 20 years ago, why is it Michigan can't do that now? Oh, because that infrastructure would be so much money. Well, first of all, no, I don't really think it needs to cost that much money. We just tend to accept bids that are far higher than what they ever should be. But even if it costs money to get set up, the government takes a ton of money that it doesn't rightfully have. It can figure out ways. I mean, shoot, we have taxes on everything. We can certainly figure out a way to put some government documents on some government websites and make them known for people. So, in any event, guys, don't get discouraged and not, and don't be involved, right? The last thing I want is for you guys to feel discouraged from county politics or state politics or whatever and say, oh my gosh, this is just too much. I can't keep up with this. I have no voice in this. And then you just fall by the wayside. The thing you need to do is realize if you feel powerless, if you feel like you need to have a voice, you need to stand up and let that voice be heard, whatever it takes. Contact MIGOP. Tell them what baloney it is that you got kept out of a convention you were properly elected to participate in, or state convention, whatever it is. Don't let your voice not be heard. It's up to you. And yeah, is it probably going to be out of the comfort zone for many of you? Yeah, it is. It's out of my comfort zone too, but I've had enough. Haven't you had enough? Don't you think that we the people should actually be deciding who is representing us if we supposedly have this Republican form of government? I do. I need a say. I need a say as someone who is duly elected to be able to figure out who should be representing the Republican ticket for the Michigan Supreme Court. Absolutely. And the Michigan Department of Education? Absolutely. So shame on those individuals who kept me locked out of being able to participate. I'm not going away, and I'm not going to be quiet about this, and my voice will be heard on this. Make sure your voice is heard on this too. Make sure we return Michigan to a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It takes all of us. Lori, I see that you've been on there. Are there any questions that I need to answer before I close this out? It looks like you are really good about trying to get information to people. I'm going to scroll through the best I can, guys. If there were any questions, I tried to answer them as I see something come up. How do people get involved? You run for those offices. Quite frankly, you run for those offices. Each office is a little different as to what the requirements are. And quite frankly, there's a lot of ways that they do things to keep people out. In fact, campaign finance alone is enough to make people want to vomit and not be able to participate in any kind of local or statewide government office. But we need to, until the constitutional amendment gets put into place here in Michigan, we still need you to get involved. So typically the cutoff dates, I want to say, are always in April, when you have to have your name put in to be on a primary election ballot. So do make sure that you're keeping that in mind and you're looking. Also, things are typically every 2 years. So this is an election year, so typically there's not going to be anything for anybody to vote on in that regard next year, but it would be the following year. So you have essentially like a year and a half to figure out what it is that you'd like to run for. Now, I believe that you should be able to still run for a write-in candidacy, which they try to claim that you have to give them something like 10 days notice if you want to run as a write-in candidate, which seems a little bit unconstitutional in and of itself. If you're a write-in and you got people to write you in and you won that way, I don't see why they needed to know ahead of time that you were going to win. But at any rate, yeah, there should be a way for you to, depending on what you're looking at doing. Again, that wouldn't be so that you could be attached to a political party. That would be as an independent, typically, because oftentimes there would be a Republican candidate for that particular office, that kind of thing. But if you haven't run for anything, I know that, like, for example, the Constitution Party had their state convention in July. I think that was July when I went there. I was a speaker at that. I'm pretty sure it was the last weekend of July. There may be other smaller parties that are still holding their state conventions. So check into that and see what you can do about different offices and what you think you might have an interest in doing. But definitely stay engaged and stay involved. Okay, I think I've answered a lot of those. Yeah, I definitely want those who are the best qualified. Absolutely. Okay, you got everything, Lori? Awesome. Thank you. All right, guys. So listen, thanks for tuning in to hear about this update, and do not take it as a point of discouragement. Rather, take it as a point of encouragement, as something that you need to empower yourself, because no one is going to empower you for you. You need to do it yourself. So take this as a point of encouragement. Even when they try to shut you down, fight back even harder. That is the only way we're going to get our state back. So do what you need to do. Of course, stay tuned into videos. I will try to help keep you guys informed and educated on things. Once we get this on the ballot, and once we have some more of these court hearings behind us, my intention is to get even more on the educating you side on how to get involved with various offices and what these different rules are and restrictions are with different things and how to participate. So again, thank you so much, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful sunny weekend, and keep fighting for freedom.